Let's get a little bit juicy today, guys. Let's talk about watermelon perfumes. It's a really difficult note to capture clearly because there's lots of perfumes that say they have watermelon in, and whether they actually smell like watermelon or not, we're going to discuss that now. But I have a whole load here. I've got some I really love, some I like, and some I actually genuinely hate that I thought we could discuss. And if you hang around until the end, I'll also talk about the things that I have had in my collection at one point, or I've had samples of, and I don't actually have bottles of, and I'll explain why. But to be fair, I think there's some good perfumes in that batch. Um, so let's start with one that I just think is maybe the oldest out of all of these perfumes. This has probably been around since the 90s. So let's talk about Charlie White. Interesting thing about this perfume is that I never knew there was a watermelon note. I just thought it was kind of, I mean, to be honest, I always found it a bit cloying. I still don't love it to this day, but smelling it now, and especially now I've been collecting perfumes, and I have a much better, not a better sense of smell so much as I'm just more knowledgeable about the subject. It's so strange that this smells like a petrichor perfume to me. So the notes that they've listed for Charlie White are watermelon, lily of the valley, peach, violet, jasmine, and rose. Now the watermelon to me comes across much more cucumbery than it is watermelony. It doesn't smell particularly fruity to me here, but like I said, this kind of smells like rainwater to me. There's something like a kind of clean rainwater, but then with that weird cucumbery note and some flowers, there's also something very metallic in here. And I think that's what kind of drives me mad, because this one, it stays on your skin. This is a cheapie. It's super affordable, but my goodness, this stays on your skin forever. It's not like a screamer. It's not strong the way that Charlie is, but it's strong in terms of lasting power. It really is. And it, to be honest, overwhelms anything else if I'm testing, in different parts of my body. So Charlie White, if you can imagine maybe watermelon rind and cucumber in cold water in a metal jug outside in the rain in a garden full of lily of the valley. That's kind of what this smells like to me. So it's a really interesting interpretation of watermelon. It's not my favourite, but because it is such a classic old perfume, I did want to throw it in the mix when talking about perfumes that are supposed to have a watermelon note. So that's Charlie White, and I've got the Eau de Toilette. They also have an Eau Fraiche version of this. Next on the list, we have something that I genuinely love. This is Sikinos from Korres. This perfume, there is just something magical about this. There's something about Sikinos that I think just smells so much like a holiday in Greece. It makes me so happy. As soon as I got this, I loved it. It's really quite magical. So this has a watermelon note as well, and it's also in the top notes. And on Fragrantica, interestingly, it is voted as being the strongest note here in Sikinos. I don't know that I agree with that personally, but we're going to talk it through now. So the notes are watermelon, freesia and bamboo in the top, mid notes are salt, lotus and mimosa, base notes musk, sandalwood and cedar. So I definitely get watermelon when I first spray this, and it's absolutely glorious and beautiful. But I think the more it dries down, the more that just stays as a almost slightly aquatic feeling, sweet, almost slightly candied and bubblegummy, but very, very sheer smelling watermelon. It just has a kind of almost pink fruit smell. And it almost could be like a prickly pear kind of thing. It's got that same juicy, the thing that you get with like star fruit and things like that, where it's not the strongest of scents or flavours, but there's just something watery and thirst quenching about it. The salt is really manageable here. I think it gives it a kind of seawatery feel, but I normally get headaches from salt, and this does not give me a headache. So I think Sikinos is really good in that respect. But there's something about the freesia and the musk here that gives it this delicious creaminess that doesn't quite go to body lotion, but it's in that neck of the woods. And the bamboo, again, is just helping this smell clean, aquatic, gorgeous. It's just... There's something so magical about this perfume. I have a few Korres, I should say. I have a few Korres perfumes that I really like. This is just very... I mean, it's supposed to be unisex, I believe, but this, I think, is quite feminine. It's very pretty. It's like really classy smelling, I think, Sikinos, but it definitely smells like a holiday, and there's just enough watermelon in there to make you happy, you know. Really, really beautiful. So that's Sikinos by Korres. All right, guys, we're going to go from a love to a hate here. Now, there is no way that I'm not going to entirely butcher the name of this particular perfume, but this is Lattafa's Anna Abiyedh Coral. I'm not sure I've got that right at all. It's a big, hefty, really heavy bottle. And I've seen people talk about this being a nice watermelon perfume, it being a bit creamy, a bit yummy, a bit coconutty, but this has fallen into the trap that many Lattafa perfumes, in fact, all of them except for Lattafa's dupe of Burberry Goddess, in fact, it smells like tar to me. So I'll read you the notes, but I'm afraid I can't tell you if this really smells like watermelon, because the aroma chemicals in here are, they've basically used every single aroma chemical that smells like literal chemicals to me, unfortunately. So the top notes here are watermelon, peach and orange. The mid notes are coconut and white flowers. Base notes vanilla, musk and amber. When I first sprayed this out, it had that kind of eye-piercing, screechy aroma chemical that I find in pretty much all of the Lancôme perfumes, for instance. And then it dried down, and very quickly it started to smell like burning rubber and burning wood, which is the tarry aroma chemical that Lattafa have been using in their perfumes for, I mean, probably decades, but has now become very, very popular and very trendy in designer and niche perfumes as well. So yeah, this is just not for me. I wanted to talk about it anyway, purely because it might smell like watermelon to some people, but if, like me, you're very sensitive to the modern aroma chemicals that have been around since, like, I don't know, like after 2005, they started turning up in designer and celebrity perfumes and things like that. And they're now in niche perfumes, even MFK. If you're really sensitive to that, do not buy this Anna Abiyedh Coral, because it's going to smell like tar to you as well. So yeah, I mean, it's got very sweet dry down. It might be slightly creamy, but I can smell tar and sweetness. That's all I can really get from this. So I don't know if this smells like watermelon, but please let me know down below if this is one that you like, and if it does really smell like watermelon. But yeah, that is going out of my collection. That was a disastrous blind buy for me. Let's get back on the positivity bus with something that I do think actually smells like watermelon and is an absolute bargain. So this is such a random one. This here is Watermelon Kiss from Claire's Accessories. I didn't even know that Claire's Accessories did perfumes. This is a body spray, but they do actually have some perfumes at the moment. And I found this because I saw some of the perfumes pop up on Fragrantica. And then I saw they had one called Watermelon Kiss, and I was like, give it to me immediately. So I went and bought it. And this really smells like watermelons. Hell of a sprayer on this thing. So the notes listed for Watermelon Kiss: watermelon, mandarin orange, cambola, so that's starfruit, and floral notes. In the main, though, I do think this smells like watermelon and starfruit. I mean, I don't get a huge amount of mandarin orange. I'm not getting a huge amount of florals here. It remains smelling like watermelon, which is impressive. And it's relatively strong. It's not too bad for a body spray, I have to say. I think it's pretty good. I almost get a sense of something salty in here, which is interesting because they don't list a C note or anything. I really like the smell of this. I think this is a really, really nice watermelon. And it's also, I think this was maybe like around about £10 or something. How much is in this thing? 177 mils, so 6 fluid ounces for my lovely friends in America. Yeah, I mean, I think this smells delicious. It's got this kind of strange, like... I don't really know how to describe the lid. It's almost like an eraser, you know, like a one for pencils. But I think this is a really nice watermelon. It's one of the best, I'd say, in terms of actually smelling like watermelon. I think this is great. It's a really good price. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be trying this one out for like a more hardcore wear than I have already. This is a really good watermelon. It actually smells like watermelon. So Watermelon Kiss from Claire's Accessories. This body mist is great. If you've seen people talking about watermelon perfumes, the chances are you have seen someone talking about this. This is Escada Sorbetto Rosa. So this is in the more recent bottle. I think the original is in a much prettier bottle, to be honest, a kind of blue and pink ombre bottle. But this version, this new one, it's still the same scent as far as I can tell. This is interesting because some people describe this as aquatic, and it does have watery notes listed. So, but I mean, I find this smells like candy. It really, really smells like candy to me. Top notes are pear, cologne and tangerine. Mid notes of watermelon. Watery notes, strawberry, apple, sea salt, tiare flower, hedione and rose. Base notes, praline, musk and amber. So, Sorbetto Rosa, the thing is here, and I find this generally speaking with a lot of perfumes that list watermelon, if they have strawberry in, they just start to smell like strawberry candy. So this, when you first spray it, definitely watermelon. It's definitely there, you can definitely smell it. The more it dries down, the more it just turns into a strawberry candy with some other fruits thrown in. It's very youthful. It kind of smells like stuff I wore when I was a kid. It's pretty. It's fun, but I don't love it. It really is very similar to one of the other perfumes that I had a sample of and then I didn't buy, because although it has a really lovely watermelon note, it just really gets overwhelmed by the strawberry. And that is the Aroma Concept Batikh Watermelon. So that had a lovely watermelon note. It was really delicious, but it had a very strong strawberry. And in fact, if we look at the notes, I would say that Batikh Watermelon is possibly an actual dupe of Sorbetto Rosa from Escada. So the notes in the Batikh Watermelon are pear, tangerine and cologne in the top, watermelon, strawberry, apple and rose in the mid, musk and praline in the base. And again, it really does get overtaken by that strawberry. So when it goes all kind of strawberry-like, it really reminded me, and this one does as well, of Sarah Jessica Parker's SJP NYC, the original that has a wild strawberry note and rum and all kinds of stuff in it. So that's just a perfume that was just a little bit too much like a kind of very sugary, fruity cocktail. This is the same. Batikh Watermelon is again the same. So not my favourite, but I think if you generally like the Escada summer editions, then I think you'll probably really like Sorbetto Rosa. If you like sugary, candy, strawberry scents, I think you'll like it. And you will get the watermelon. I think the Batikh had an even stronger and longer lasting watermelon than Sorbetto Rosa. But this one, it definitely has a beautiful watermelon at first, but it really definitely ends up smelling like a very sugary strawberry cocktail. So yeah. It's nice. It's not really my kind of thing, but if that's your kind of thing, then yeah, Escada Sorbetto Rosa is worth looking at. Next up, we have one that was released quite a while ago, but has since been re-released as a limited edition, unfortunately, in a different bottle. So this is from Zara, and this is called Cherry Watermelon Ice, and it's extremely light. It is also, however, a very good and quite realistic, slightly underripe watermelon scent. When you first spray it, I would say there's so much alcohol in this perfume that it does give me a feel of watermelon vodka, and that feel doesn't entirely leave in the wear of this. I wonder if that's coming from the cardamom here, that it's giving this kind of strange, almost aromatic scent, you know, the same way that like juniper does with gin. It's giving me that kind of feel. So again, like kind of interesting that this is for kids, because I do think this is probably more suitable for adults, just because it does have that weird kind of vodka scent and it almost smells deliberate, but it smells like the rind of a very cold watermelon. I get no cherry. I don't know why it's called Cherry Watermelon Ice. I do think that there are a few florals in here, and there's two different sets of notes that I'll put up on the screen. I don't think that this is a different perfume to before. I think they've just re-released it in a different bottle. A different bottle that has a magnetic cap, which might be partly why this is a more expensive perfume. I mean, who knows? The Lily of the Valley, Whitewoods and Watermelon, I think that's the new set. But I actually really liked wearing this one. I think it's very, very fresh. It's really bright. It's kind of juicy. It's barely got any sweetness, but in a way, that's what I mean. It kind of smells. It's got 1 foot into the cucumber realm in terms of how the watermelon smells. It could almost be a watermelon vodka with loads of ice and a slice of cucumber. I feel like that would be a really good description of what cherry watermelon ice from Zara actually smells like. It's extremely fresh and really good in very hot weather. You get a little bit of the natural sweetness that you get just from the fructose in a watermelon, even when it is a bit underripe. But like I said, it's not the sweet watermelon. So if you're looking for the sweet pinky flesh, this isn't going to be for you. If you like the idea of the more kind of crunchy, greener parts of the watermelon and the rind, and you're interested in that kind of watermelon, then this one I think would really work for you. Next up is one that's kind of popular. I've seen this talked about a couple of times by a few people on YouTube. I figured I would give it a go. This is Oui from Juicy Couture. The notes in this one are watermelon, pear, tea and acai berry or acai berry. I'm not sure how to say that, to be honest. It's got honeysuckle, jasmine and tuberose in the mid, and then in the base there's musk, woodsy notes and amber. So this guy, this is a weird one. I feel like this has a fruitiness in the top, but I'm not sure I would have guessed that it was watermelon necessarily. Maybe melon in general. There's maybe like a hint of something like a watermelon, but this one I find quite sharp, maybe a little bit screechy, a little bit scratchy. It's very, very floral, and in all honesty, this one it smells like a 90s perfume to me. It smells like a 90s aquatic fruity floral, and it's giving me vibes of the original L'Eau d'Issy and Escape from Calvin Klein and Sunflowers, a sheerer version of those, but still this one is not for me. As much as I can appreciate that kind of classic 90s smell, I don't really like the texture of it. I'm not entirely keen on that smell. I find it really hard to wear, kind of sunflowers, even though it's kind of evocative of the 90s and people wearing that when I was young. But yeah, it's just, I find it a little bit headache inducing, even when it's light. There's something, well, I mean, there's probably an aroma chemical, to be honest, in this that is bothering me. It did really make me think of Escape, and Escape is something that I find incredibly hard to deal with. It's very, very strong, and there's something that kind of chokes me out in that one. Sunflowers is a bit sheerer, a bit easier, but that's definitely the vibe this is giving me. So almost to be fair, if you could imagine L'Eau d'Issy, which I think has a really dominant melon note in it, if you could imagine that with maybe just a hint of watermelon over a regular melon, or like a honeydew or whatever the kind of melon is that's in L'Eau d'Issy. If you can imagine maybe that just hint of something, a wink to something sort of more bubblegummy, then you're imagining something that smells a bit like a Oui Juicy Couture, I would say. I'm not sure anyone else would agree with me. It would be really interesting if people have got this, or if you smelt it, if you get that same link. But yeah, so this one's not really for me, and I don't really think there's enough watermelon in it to be too excited about. It's not one I would recommend myself. Okay, so we've got something a little bit more pricey here. I think this might be the most expensive of the bunch, but it's also very beautiful. So this bottle is just so stunning as well. This is Simone from Tocca. It's just, I love the Tocca bottles. They're so beautiful. It has this very pale pink liquid, a very pale kind of pink nude label. Very pretty. So the notes in this one, watermelon, apple and lemon in the top. The mid notes are freesia, frangipani, rose and ylang ylang. And the base notes are musk, woody notes and amber. This one, I do think you can get a little bit of a sense of the watermelon. But it doesn't really last the whole way through as watermelon. I do think this is a little bit more of a floral perfume. Personally, I'm getting a really creamy, musky freesia from this. Beautiful freesia note. And the watermelon is extremely pretty, but I do think it almost smells like there's that hint of green apple, but there's also like a hint of a very fresh and not too sweet strawberry here for me. I always think of this as watermelon and strawberry, but in a very light, aquatic way. It's such a joy to wear. It's extremely ladylike, very pretty. In colder weather, this smells a bit like shampoo to me, which I don't love, but in hot weather, it just smells beautiful. Again, the same with the Sikinos. Like, these two have some crossovers. They don't smell the same, but they both give me this feeling of being kind of classy, feminine, light. It would be another perfect holiday perfume, except for the fact that these bottles are far too heavy to take away on holiday. They're just mad. But I do think this is really beautiful. It's got a subtle watermelon, but a beautiful watermelon. It's not bubblegummy at all. It's just this kind of lovely, slight, pink, fruity, aquatic fruit throughout. It's just really beautiful from that. So that's Simone from Tocca. From the sublime to the ridiculous. This is not on Fragrantica. This one, this really garish but rather fun bottle, which has this crazy heart at the back. This is Jeanne Arthes, and as you can probably see here, Sweet 16 Coral. So there are a few Sweet 16s in this range. Coral is the one that has the watermelon note. I'm just going to grab the box so I can tell you what the notes are, because they very handily list it on the side. So the notes in Jeanne Arthes Sweet 16 Coral is top notes of watermelon, pineapple and blueberry, heart notes of tiare flower, jasmine and tuberose, base notes of sandalwood, musk and ambergris. And this one also smells like a fruity cocktail, but the joy for me in this one is that it doesn't smell like a fruity cocktail that has strawberry in it. So I'm going to spray this out real quick. There is a real mixture in the top of this of watermelon and pineapple. And I think, to be fair, although I really get a lovely watermelon in this, I feel like the pineapple is the dominant note in terms of those kind of more tropical fruits. But there's definitely a hint of that slightly bubblegummy smelling watermelon here, which is really yummy. And then the more it dries down, you do get some berries, but you're getting that delicious blueberry, which is a really, really nice addition to this. It really does smell like a delicious fruit cocktail when you first spray this. However, when it starts to dry down, you start getting those solar florals through. So you start getting these kind of subtly buttery florals that you get in a lot of beachy perfumes. So the tiare flower, jasmine and tuberose combination is a really popular one in solar perfumes. And you do get a little bit of the solar floral here when it dries down. And I have traditionally been a bit funny about buttery florals, but I think because they are quite subtle here, they do come through in the mid, but they don't overwhelm the delicious kind of sweet and cocktail-like fruits. So you've got this kind of slightly bubblegummy, pineapple-y, hint of berries kind of cocktail with this tiare flower solar floral feel. And then you've got this tiny hint of something salty from that ambergris. So yeah, I think this could go a little bit shampooey. It isn't so shampooey that it really upsets me or bothers me, but it's definitely more in the realm of the Sorbetto Rosso and the Batikh watermelon. So it's much more in that kind of smells like a juicy cocktail feel. But somehow, because there isn't a strawberry in this, and I think the florals are a little bit more noticeable once this dries down, I prefer this to either of those. So Sweet 16 Coral is going to stay with me because it's a really fun perfume. I really enjoy it. I think it's really cute and I'm really excited to wear this one. I got this from Notino, so hopefully they still have it, and I have asked for Fragrantica to add it, so hopefully this will turn up on the site at some point. But yeah, so that's Jeanne Arthes Sweet 16, the Coral version. Next up we have a couple of Britney Spears perfumes. So the first one is this huge bottle of Island Fantasy. So unfortunately, Island Fantasy is a perfume that you can't get anymore. They stopped making Island Fantasy, so you can only get this body spray version. But I wanted to try it because this has watermelon in it. And this is an interesting one. I mean, to be fair, it is a body spray, so as you can imagine, it's extremely light. It has a kind of cool blue aquatic liquid in it, which is kind of hard to see, of course. But so Island Fantasy, the notes in this one are watermelon, citruses, clementine, mandarin, orange and red berries in the top. Mid notes of freesia, violet and jasmine. Base notes of sugar cane and musk. If I have a look now, yeah, again, watermelon is voted as being the top here. But personally, I feel like this generally just smells like a fruit cocktail, but it's not as sweet and syrupy as the others I've talked about. This is a much fresher, slightly sharper one. But I don't get a huge amount of watermelon. I feel like it's really overwhelmed by the citruses here. I'm getting much more of a citrusy feel from this. I do think this is pretty. It's obviously very fleeting. I'm not sure that the perfume version lasted that well of this, but the body spray certainly doesn't. This would be great as a like first thing in the morning, freshy to wake you up. Or, I mean, I wonder if I might even use this just in summer, just as a bit of a room spray, because I think it's not necessarily worth wearing it as a body spray. I don't get a huge amount of watermelon from this one. I only really get a bit. And as pretty as I think it is, I don't really think it's one that I would automatically reach for, particularly not if I'm looking for a watermelon perfume. But I wanted to mention it anyway because a lot of people really like Island Fantasy. But yeah, this one for me is just kind of a nice, fruity, sort of medium sweet, almost aquatic smelling scent. So yeah, that's Island Fantasy from Britney Spears. Island Fantasy from Britney Spears, on the other hand, this guy actually smells like watermelon. When I first got this, I was like, oh, that is awesome. It really does have a watermelon scent to it. I would say probably watermelon and water lily are the things I'm getting the most from this. So it has a sheer and aquatic quality to it, and I think it's quite juicy and fruity, but it's not overly sweet, which is, again, slightly unusual for a Britney Spears. But this one, it's very sad. The longevity on this for an eau de toilette even is really dreadful. It really doesn't last very long. You have to spray a huge amount on. You have to respray this. I'm not joking, probably every half hour, which is a shame because I think this is a really nice scent. So the notes here are watermelon, yuzu and violet leaf in the top. The mids are water lily, gardenia and gustavia flower. The base is cupcake and tonka. Now, I'm not really getting cupcake, I'm not really getting tonka. I am really getting watermelon. There is a slight sweet bubblegumminess, but there's also the kind of green and rind feely part of the watermelon. Then there's a water lily, which I think is quite a strong note here. And then maybe a little bit of that yuzu, because you've got a little bit of citrusiness, but this doesn't smell quite as natural as, for instance, the cherry watermelon ice, or even actually, to be honest, the watermelon kiss, the body spray. But I do quite like this one, and I have worn this and really enjoyed it. But like I said, it did drive me a bit mad with how much I had to keep respraying this. But I think of all the Britneys, this is really cute. It's really fun. It's very summery. And I do think it has quite a nice watermelon note, although it definitely is in the realm of smelling a little bit shampooey. However, not as shampooey as a lot of Britney's other perfumes. But yeah, so that's Jungle Fantasy from Britney Spears. I don't know why it's called Jungle Fantasy. It doesn't smell like the jungle, but anyway. The green bottle from Britney. So we are down to my two favourites now. One of which I've had for a long time. One of which is new to me. So let's start with the new one. This is Joyful body spray from Avon. It's actually an eau de cologne. So this has notes of watermelon, clary sage and bubble tea. Now then, doesn't that sound fantastic? Yes, it does. And yes, it is. So what's magic about this one is you really do get that watermelon in the top, and it's juicy, but it definitely has a little bit of that bubblegummy scent. The clary sage I think is there, but it's not smelling particularly herbaceous or anything. I think it's just maybe giving a bit more body to what could be a little bit of a sort of one note kind of perfume. But that bubble tea gives this a very, very sheer and watery milkiness, which I think is just fantastic. So whether or not that bubble tea includes a rice note, I think it definitely could, because I think if you could imagine a watermelon bubble milk tea that had so much ice in it that it's all kind of melted and it's got even kind of thinner and it's less milky, you know, that kind of quality. That's kind of what this smells like. And of course, the bubble milk tea has given this a sweetness that you wouldn't necessarily get with a natural watermelon, but the watermelon is definitely there. So I think that this is an absolute bargain, and I think it's great. I don't have many Avon perfumes, but this was a real surprise and I really enjoy it. The longevity is that of a decent eau de cologne. It's not bad. It's much better than either of the Britney ones, including the eau de toilette. So I really like Joyful. This was a fantastic surprise. This is probably, yeah, in terms of recommending a watermelon perfume, this one, my favourite one, which is coming up next, and then probably the other body mist from Claire's, the Watermelon Kiss, I think are the best actual watermelon scents. So yeah, this one's just really fun. I really like this. Let me know down below if any of you have this, because I've not seen anyone talk about it, but I just think this is really cute, and I really like the watermelon in this. I think it's a really nice perfume. So that's Joyful from Avon. So let's finish with my favourite, and this is, in terms of like the bottles I actually have, this is Adidas Get Ready. This has been around for ages. I've had this perfume for ages. This is an eau de toilette, and I think this is my favourite watermelon perfume. Like, I just don't think I've ever found anything that I prefer to this. So the notes here are watermelon, grenadine and orange in the top. The mid notes are sugarcane and lotus, and the base notes are musk, cedar and amber. So this really does smell like watermelon. And it definitely is a little bit of the bubblegummy kind of watermelon, but because it has that lotus in the middle, it stops it from smelling just like a kind of Jolly Rancher. It stops it smelling like a watermelon candy, and it actually smells like a perfume. It has an aquatic quality. It's not entirely shampooey, because like I've said, I don't really like shampooey perfumes. It has like a toe in the shampooey realm, but I think that this one is just such a wonderful watermelon perfume. Like, it really is. And it's maybe, at the moment in the UK you can get it from Direct Cosmetics for about £3.75 for a 30ml for an eau de toilette, and I just think this is such a good little perfume. I really do. I wear this pretty much every summer, and I just think it's lovely. I don't even have to respray this a huge amount. It's a decent summer perfume in terms of strength and longevity. But yeah, I think it's got a really beautiful, lovely watermelon note, which is supported by that grenadine to keep it nice and sweet, but then you've got that lotus to give it a kind of aquatic floral feel. You've got a musk that helps it hang around on the skin, and then the orange gives it even more juiciness. I don't really sense a huge amount of amber or cedar, but maybe that's also helping it last a bit longer. But yeah, in terms of the bottles I have still in my collection, Adidas Get Ready is absolutely my favourite, and this is my top recommendation for a watermelon perfume. So let's take a look at some of the perfumes that I've had with the watermelon note, or I have tested, that just aren't in my collection, but I just want to give you my opinion on them real quick as we are talking about watermelons. So L'Imperatrice from D&G, that's not a perfume I've ever got along with, but to be fair, I don't get along with any D&G perfumes. Dolce & Gabbana are a perfume house, or a house that makes perfumes that use some kind of aroma chemical. Pretty much they have like a house DNA that just is really headache inducing for me, so there's just something there that doesn't work for me. And in terms of watermelon perfumes, I know it's really popular. I find it very screechy, and it's far too shampooey. It's just the level of shampooey that I can't wear. So I've tested it a number of times. I just can't get on with it. That's just not one for me. I've also had Harajuku Lover's Wicked Style G, the Gwen Stefani perfume. Um, that is watermelon, pineapple, Granny Smith apple. That's got lots of notes in it that I think are really cute, really pretty, but the watermelon wasn't the strongest. I thought it was cute, but again, it just kind of smelled like a sheer pineapple-y cocktail. I found that the pineapple was considerably stronger than the watermelon, although in the votes, again, watermelon and aquatic notes are at the top. I found that the kind of the raspberry, the pineapple, like the other fruits in it, just turned it into smelling like a fruit cocktail. And it wasn't my favourite, so I just didn't keep it. I thought it was really nice, but it just wasn't a favourite. I also had in Decluttered 4711 Acqua Colonia Bamboo and Watermelon. That one, I was disappointed by that one because I didn't feel like it smelled like watermelon. I thought it was more like a cucumber. The bamboo was more dominant for me, and there wasn't really much in the way of sweetness. It was very aquatic, it was very sheer. It just didn't smell good on me. Bamboo often doesn't smell good on me. Like occasionally I'll get something that smells great with bamboo in. Like for instance, I think Sikinos has bamboo, and that smells great on me. But this one, it was kind of like bamboo and cucumber to me, and I just wasn't digging it. It just didn't really do much for me, and it was so sheer that I just wasn't loving it. I think probably the closest thing to it is the cherry watermelon ice from Zara. But again, like that one smells a little bit more like watermelon than the bamboo and watermelon from the 4711 did. I had Modern Princess Blooming from Lanvin. I tested that one out. And that one, again, it was just far too shampooey for me, but I did think it had a nice watermelon note. It reminded me a little bit of L'Imperatrice, but I thought it was much nicer. But yeah, that one, a really decent watermelon in the top, a kind of nice floral musky scent as well. But it really did veer too far into the shampoo realm for me to be able to wear it. But it wasn't too sickly sweet, and I think it was kind of pretty, but a little bit too, yeah, floral, fruity shampoo. So for me, a little bit too screechy. Boum Rainbow from Jeanne Arthes I thought was really pretty, and actually, to be honest, I think that that's probably relatively close to the Joyful body spray from Avon, except for the reason that I didn't actually declutter this in terms of like selling it. I gave it to my brother-in-law because he likes kind of fruity scents, and I just found it smelt a little bit like there was a kind of powdery coconut in the base of Boum Rainbow from Jeanne Arthes, and it just therefore I found it just a tiny bit sickly to me, but it did have a really nice watermelon note. And so that is one that, although I don't have it anymore, I would happily recommend that. There's just something in it that I found a little bit coconutty, and therefore it kind of threw me off a little bit. But I do think it's really pretty, and it's a super affordable, sweet but sheer watermelon perfume, and it's quite an interesting one. So yeah, I would totally recommend Boum Rainbow from Jeanne Arthes. I also had from 4711 the remix of their classic cologne, and it is the Green Oasis remix. So I was really excited about that one because it has both watermelon and dragon fruit in it, and I was like, with watery notes as well, and I was like, there's literally no way that's not going to smell like a delicious watery watermelon perfume. But I didn't really find it to smell like a watermelony perfume. There's a hint of watermelon, but again, it kind of dried down to smell a bit like a sugary cocktail on me. It got a little bit too sweet and just a little bit too generic in terms of its fruitiness. And there wasn't really anything that was pulling me in. I do think it's pretty, it's really refreshing and nice, but I just didn't like that one enough to keep it, even though I do think it's kind of pretty. So the last one I'm going to mention is Kim Kardashian's Glam. I think you can still get this perfume, and I actually do think that this is a really nice scent. I decluttered it purely because I found that the florals in it, which is jasmine and tuberose, they were just a little bit too strong for me and a little bit too buttery. And as I said, I can really, really struggle with buttery florals. So if you know what the original Kim Kardashian in the dark round bottle looks like, that is a very kind of classic smelling buttery tuberose perfume. I think that's probably got gardenia and all the other classic buttery florals in there too. And so it's got this kind of buttery, beachy floral smell. Glam, it really has a little bit of that, but it also has a really nice, watery, juicy watermelon note. And I think that the watermelon note, and I did think the watermelon note in Glam was really lovely. It just was then a little bit too much in the buttery floral realm. There's a chance that nowadays I would get on with it a little bit better, but I think like buttery tuberose and jasmine can really be a struggle for me. I can kind of cope with like a buttery frangipani and sometimes a buttery tiare flower occasionally, but if it's tuberose and jasmine, sometimes I can really struggle with it. So I got rid of that one. It wasn't for me, but I actually think in terms of a watermelon perfume, that is a really beautiful one. I actually think it's really good. I don't remember it being too shampoo or anything like that. I think I think the florals were just a bit much for me. But if you like kind of buttery and solar tuberoses and jasmine, and you want something that also has a watermelon note and you can get hold of Glam, I think that's a really good perfume. I think a lot of her early ones were also really strong. They lasted a long time. So yeah, I think that Glam was a good one. So I wanted to give that a shout. Anyway, guys, this has been an absolutely mammoth video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was handy. And yeah, let me know down below if you've got any awesome suggestions for watermelon perfumes. I now have a few I need to declutter, but I've also got quite a few I know I'm going to wear. And yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun testing all of these out and wearing delicious watermelon perfumes at the moment. So again, thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe if you like my videos, and thanks again. Have a lovely hot summer, hopefully with lots of juicy watermelon perfumes. Bye guys.